Dubai, 60% of the market are renters.
It starts making you wonder.
They want that unit for their family to be able to prosper.
Banks financing off-plan, which was not the case before. It's never usually the case.
Yeah, when you are delaying that project, then basically you're delaying their life.
Chanel didn't become Chanel overnight. Gucci didn't become Gucci overnight.
And so that is something that we haven't tapped into. All right, thank you so much everyone for joining us back on Main Mic. With us we have Mohammad Shehuk.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, and Rajay, my co-host. We have a lot of questions for you. We're going to be like grilling you today with a lot of information that we want to get to know about your expertise and what you think about the market and what's going on in the global market these days.
More than happy. Thank you for having me.
No, my pleasure. So let's get to it. Developers in Dubai, right? They keep launching. Do you think they're doing responsibly or they're just hurting the market?
Not necessarily hurting the market, because they're just responding to a demand, and the demand is real. If you look at the numbers, if you look at the foreign direct investments that are coming in the country, the increase in the population, if you look at the overall health of the real estate market, they're just supplying to demand. There is enough demand right now for them to keep launching, and it makes absolute sense to build, because if you look at the numbers, just I think last quarter, there's already 100,000 plus people moving here. So these people need units. The current supply in the market is not enough. And I think the developers are delivering right under the number that's actually required for the market to kind of reach a point of stability. So they are launching based on the demand, and so it's absolutely normal.
Raji, are you right now experiencing any type of slowdown in the marketplace with the buyer inquiries and investors that want to come into the market right now?
Honestly, I'm not noticing a slowdown. I think activity is still on. And I'm noticing that I have like more requests actually on secondary market currently than I was getting previously. Yeah. So I have more people, I don't like to use the term end users, but like most of homeowners, most of people that want to purchase to actually live in the property. So I feel like there's actually a rise in demand on secondary market. In comparison with the off-plan market, I'm talking based on the requests that I'm getting on a daily basis.
But I'll tell you, that's healthy, because when in a mature market, off-plan shouldn't be majority of the marketplace. It should be resale, because people, especially families, they want to live into a unit that they can like and see and touch and already know what the neighborhood feels like before they can invest into it. So what you're saying is a sign of maturity in a marketplace where off-plan sales are going up, is because people are truly now investing for the sake of, like you said, living in the unit as a homeowner rather than just an investor. But of course,
it actually supports probably the point that I was trying to make, is that it's people that are moving, that are either moving to a bigger house internally or moving from abroad to here and selling their assets back home.
Right. And really, those are the fundamentals that developers should really be developing upon.
Of course.
Right? They shouldn't be just speculating that, okay, build it and they will come. Right? It works in a market like Dubai. Why? Is because the demand always exceeds the supply. But in a maturing market, or in a market that where even in a slowdown it still thrives, is where you have the numbers in a certain specific area, geography, that where people want to live, and then you come in as a developer to be able to create more supply.
Can I give you a small statistic? And this is just from report. If people just pay attention to the numbers and the data, and if they actually just read, they'll understand that a lot of what's happening makes sense, and it's not just a demand that's just out of the blue. Just last year, there was 60 billion worth of investments in FDIs, foreign direct investments, in greenfield and brownfield. 60 billion. Out of those, 30,000 jobs were created in Dubai.
Nice.
Those are 30,000 jobs that need to be filled.
True.
Right? And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's actually more than that. It's probably maybe around 40 or 50, but we were calculating how many units would be required.
Got it.
So
gap analysis.
Exactly. So I think it was maybe around 40 or 50, but we assume that maybe 30 because these are the units that would require for these people, because these people want to move here, or either they are existing and moving from one job to another. It just means that there is 30,000 extra demand.
Correct. So basic jobs, we use this quotient in US as well to be able to determine the gap in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And where we look at job creation being the fundamental reason why developers should responsibly develop. And that number dictates a lot of things, not just the need for units, but also the expansion of roads and also creation of schools and so on and so forth. And that number, yes, you're right, it continuously looks in the right direction, which is positive in growth. And so that itself could be and is the success for Dubai, is that it has positive job growth.
And it goes even further than that. If you read the economic agenda D33 of Dubai, they say and they predict that they will they will attract investments worth 600 billion in the next 10 years, up until 2033 approximately. That means another 60 billion per year. These 60 billion per year means another 30, 40, 50,000 extra jobs every single year.
Sure.
Where are these people going to live? You don't have enough in the market right now.
Right.
And if we've seen anything about the leadership in Dubai or the economics here, is that most of the time they exceed their goals. So I highly doubt that they will not be able to achieve this, because we've seen what's happening right now, and they're investing a lot of money in so many different sectors that it's attracting people from all walks of life.
You know, one thing I was thinking of, that the the international news these days, all about tariffs. I think that's going to be good news for Dubai. What do you guys think?
I believe that definitely it's going to be, it will have like a great impact on Dubai's economy, because if we look at the contribution of different sectors in Dubai's GDP, we find that warehouses, which is, it was astounding to me because I didn't know that it had the biggest percentage in its participation in the GDP. So if you have lots of things, or like what's going on in globally, it's actually going to drive more companies into Dubai, which is going to even increase the demand on warehouses. It's going to increase the demand on offices, on lots of spaces related to.
I agree with you. I mean, we also have to come back to the most fundamental point, which is Dubai is sort of one of the leading logistics type of cities in the world. So it's at the epicenter of almost all trade routes, and the port and the airport here are they're probably the best, or one of the best, it's probably one of the best, if not the best, ports in the world. And they actually also manage a lot of ports abroad too, because of how good they are. So going back to your point, the tariffs probably decrease the business somewhere, but they also increase the business elsewhere, right? So with what's happening, for example, now the funniest thing about China and all these suppliers coming out, the Chinese suppliers be like, we're the actual real manufacturers of these.
You've seen those, right?
Oh my God, there are
all of a sudden they're getting exposed. The supply chain is getting exposed to all these luxury brands.
I like binge watch them, especially the Lululemon and like the Hermes and all this stuff. And I'm like, we're the real suppliers for this. But jokes aside, this is also driving business a lot from the East, right? And they have to sort of trade, and they have to stop somewhere. So the first stop most of the time is Dubai.
Yeah, Middle East is definitely going to be a benefactor of this whole trade war between China and America. And the relationship that UAE shares with America is really advantageous for local growth. If you look at the AI industry and how the relationship and the trade commitments, the investment commitments that UAE has made into the US is going to allow for UAE to be able to pick up chips that a lot of the world will not be able to touch.
True.
So that itself is going to grow an industry that probably doesn't even exist yet, and that we can't even probably like benchmark yet to be able to know how much benefit that can bring into the local marketplace.
1000%. I think that in the next few years, from all the reports that I read, and I read a lot of reports, AI specifically is going to become probably one of the biggest things in the UAE economy overall. and crypto also.
Yeah.
Those two things are gonna really drive and open up a big sector of the market here, and it's gonna attract a lot of talent. Already there's a lot of, let's say, concessions and initiatives that are being made to attract people in those domains. And I see it because I meet a lot of people on a monthly basis or even weekly basis that are directly or indirectly involved in those domains, and they are looking to either move or already moving their businesses here in those domains.
Our industry thrives, our region thrives off of being able to create opportunity where we can compete at a global level, right? And I think one of the unique ways that we can compete is not just because of legislature and geography, but it's also the environment, the culture, the safety, and the quality of life that we have to offer.
Right.
Do you think that is sustainable with a growth of population? Because I'll tell you that when you put more population into a country, you will see a lot more crime happening. Do you think that's something that Dubai can sustain even while the population grows?
I believe that's very sustainable, and if it's sustainable anywhere, it's sustainable in Dubai, because first of all, like the expansion that's happening, or like the growth in number of population, it is happening at the same time where all like the infrastructure is expanding. Like we're talking about infrastructure, education. It's like you have it's an orchestrated, I would say, strategy that caters to everything at the same time. So it's not just the number of population that's increasing, but like the economy is growing, the infrastructure is getting better and better. And also like here, when it comes to the regulations and rules, I think they're very strict. So I think it's all will be in line. I don't see like a number of crime increasing or anything, because that's one of the things that we sell as a main thing. Like when we're selling Dubai as a destination, we're selling it as the safest place in the world. So
I'll give you an example. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'll give you an
I
example.
was going to add a point, but I'll wait for you. One of the things, I've lived in the Gulf my entire life, born and raised in this region. And if you look at all the countries in the Middle East in general, Dubai has this attitude of build it and then they'll come. And if you translate that into actual things on the ground, it means that, to her point, is that they first do the infrastructure, they prepare everything, whether it's legal, whether it's the actual physical infrastructure, the roads, etc., or whether it's the buildings, schools, hospitals, etc. They do this first, then they promote. So that's why it's a seamless transition for anyone that comes here. And if you notice, any businessman or any person that comes here, be like, it's the easiest place to set up and hit the ground running, which means that the infrastructure is already in place. They don't wait for the people to come and then start playing catch up in terms of infrastructure. It doesn't work like that here. It's the other way around. They build it and then they come. And that's the way to do it. Because otherwise, you're always going to find a lag, that the population is increasing, to your point, and then there's not enough infrastructure to support it, whether it's the police or the medicine or roads or this and that. But honestly, it's super healthy. Yes, sometimes they may come short a little bit just because it's growing at a much faster rate than they want to, but it's generally very stable in comparison to other countries.
If you and because you were really first born here, you've seen the city grow firsthand. You can probably tell us more about how people's conversations were when Sheikh would announce that we're going to do this and that, and then all of a sudden it became reality, right?
Yeah.
Those are things that we can only from the West, wish that our leadership was able to promise and deliver.
Yeah.
Those are things that I think that Dubai is always positive, is because of the track record that Dubai has had in being able to deliver their promises.
Well, they put skin in the game. It's very simple. If I just tell you that, this area is going to be amazing, please invest here. If it's just words, it's pointless.
Yeah.
But no, they have skin in the game. They come, they tell you, okay, we're announcing this area. Then they send the biggest developers, or one of the big, I'mar, they do their pilot project there. They build there. They invest money there because they want to show people that
Infrastructure is...
the infrastructure. And then we have skin in the game. We're investing money too. So obviously we we'll benefit if this area or this district or this project thrives because we also have money
Even that.
invested here.
Correct.
And also, like, because here, unlike anywhere else in the world, like when the government announces a project, people are actually excited to invest with government-related or developers that are semi-governmental, for instance, because they know if they promise something, they'll actually deliver.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, well, in other places, like anywhere in the world, if you say that this is a government's project, people will tell you, like, we know for sure it's not going to be handed over, or we know that they won't be able to actually follow through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, with every opportunity comes challenges, struggles. What do you think are the struggles that UAE might face in a global perspective with the tightening of global economies?
Supply chain.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Supply chain. This will probably be a problem because whether it's the trade war that's happening right now or the increase in demand on everything is causing a lot of pressure on the supply chain. And when I say supply chain, it means everything across the supply chain, not just in construction, but across all sectors. For example, some of the contractors right now, or some of the provider or subcontractors, they are not going to take on a project unless it has very specific payment terms and very stringent things in their favor. Because they're like, why would we go for something that's, probably not attractive when I have a million other opportunities there? So suppliers and service providers are becoming very selective. And when they become very selective, it becomes harder for you as a client, as a developer, as a business owner to find key players to find service providers to fulfill your needs, whether you want to expand or build or do this and that. So supply chain is definitely going to be, and we see it right now. For example, all the contractors are busy. It's so hard to find good contractors. All the suppliers of raw material, they are like occupied. They are booked for another few months. It's just crazy. It's so hard to find service providers right now or suppliers that are not busy.
Busy. Yeah.
And also, I believe like the increase of the cost of the materials.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also another thing. Do you think that that's gonna impact the frequency of the launches that we will see in the upcoming years in Dubai?
I see. Honestly, the trade wars happening between U.S. and China. I think UAE is going to walk out a winner from it, is because then China is going to divert their trade to other parts of the world. They're going to look for new buyers, and UAE could be one of those that can probably help be able to meet the supply needs. Meet the demands that the local market needs. So from that perspective, I think we won't face inflation. However, the biggest problem that I see that our region facing is crude oil being below 90. Crude oil being below 90 can affect jobs, can affect local confidence of the region, from governments probably stepping back from perhaps the longer vision or the investment that they need to be able to put into their current commitments. Those things I think can affect, but that can be short-lived, is because that's just based upon crude's expectations of how it should perform in a normal market. But I'm sure that governments are going to now readjust based upon the realities of today, and then basically reduce their output and basically jump the price up again. But overall, I see Middle East being able to benefit from this trade war.
Right.
You guys agree?
Yeah, I mean, 1000%. And to also comment on something that you mentioned, 100%, if the crude oil falls below 90, it's going to cause a problem. But the leadership here is also very much aware of this, and they're always 1-2 steps ahead. That's why you get announcements like investing $1 trillion in
The U.S.
in the US in terms specifically in AI and other industries, because they know that they have to diversify at some point, number one. Number two, you've got other initiatives that they're doing, for example, in terms of energy dependency, with whether it's the nuclear plants that they built and the new ones that they're going to build. This is also providing security and stability in terms of the power requirements here. and all the other initiatives that they're doing just to attract business. So yes, to your point, I think it's a risk, but I think they're mitigating the risk very well.
Yeah, and let me be clear, like, I don't think UAE will be affected because UAE was never dependent on crude for a while now,
Yeah.
right? It's the region that I feel like will feel the pinch, and then we'll probably be part of that in some factor, but not necessarily the major detriments are going to come our way. Overall, that could be, like you said, the diversification can allow for Dubai to, even within the region itself, thrive when
Yeah.
others are probably just shuffling and
It's
reorganizing.
always the case.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a pinch elsewhere, the people come here.
Yeah, yeah.
We've seen that in the Russia-Ukraine war. We've seen that in a lot of things
COVID.
because people, business owners, investors, they want a safe haven, right?
Yeah.
We have a saying in Arabic that says "Sahib Ras al-Mal Jaban." It means a capitalist or a person that has capital is always a kind of a coward person. He's always scared, right? Because he has his capital and he wants to protect it in any shape or form. So he's always going
Risk
to look
appetite is less.
very, very,
Yeah.
very little. So he's always going to look to the safest, most secure place where my investment is protected.
Certainty. Yeah.
Certainty. And in this region, over the years, it's always been Dubai and the UAE overall. So that's why whenever there is a problem elsewhere, people come here because they look for that stability and security.
So overall speaking, to touch on Raj's point again, do you think slowdown on launches are going to happen just because of this? Or do you think Dubai is going to pave its own course?
I think there's, yeah. But I prefer hearing your answer
No,
first.
honestly, I'm actually looking forward to hearing from you because you're inside the machine. You know what I mean?
Yes, I think I've been reading the numbers. There's already an immediate drop. So you will see almost 2 to 5% in some areas. If you look at the data of a service providers like Property Monitor, you'll see that there's already a drop. So I think for now it's temporary. It could be long term if things really continue like being worse in terms of trade wars and other certain uncertainties in the market. But yes, there's almost an immediate reaction to it now, which is a bit of a slowdown, but it's not that bad yet. So, and also don't forget, they actually also made it a bit more difficult when they removed the 6% that you could have financed through the bank, which is the DLD fees and the brokerage fees. That's also another thing that they try to put just to sort of try to control the market. But even with that, there's still a lot of demand.
Yeah. What is your take?
Well, I believe that they'll definitely will see a slowdown in, especially this year. If we go back to building on all like the points that we have discussed, I think it's inevitable.
There's always contraction in a market. You can't always think that a market's going to skyrocket and never stop. It can't be that way. It will not be sustainable.
Never.
And so I think corrections are healthy. I don't see a crash. I see a correction, right? And that could be something that where we can understand that there is going to require this to happen just so that we can introduce a new segment into the marketplace that perhaps we're just sitting on the sidelines, right? Many people were just watching for them to say that, okay, you know what, it's just too expensive. I'll do it when I see the prices dip a little bit. And now that dip will allow us to be able to bring in a new set of buyers that weren't in the market in the first place.
Yeah.
So that itself can probably take us out of any type of correction into a more of a positive and growing and trending market. But aside from that, I think that globally, population is growing.
Yeah.
Globally, there's always a human desire to be safe and certain and having the best quality of life. And I believe that Dubai is one of the best places to be able to have it all. From a quality of life standpoint, from a secure investment standpoint, from access to all parts of the world. This is the place where we can consider all of our boxes ticked.
Yeah, I agree. And one point that I wanted to add is to your point. Sorry, humans, generally speaking, or business people are inherently, let's say, greedy, for the lack of better terms, right? So they always want to build and sell. And this is something that, for example, Ray Dalio says in most of his books, is that it's always economics and business. It's always history repeating itself. It's like build. It's cycles. It's just up and down, up and down, up and down. And we've seen it. But exactly what you're saying is going to happen. There's going to be a correction. Probably not a crash, but a correction. And why not a crash? Because there are a lot of legislation in place right now that protects the investors very much to the point that it will avoid what's happened in 2008 and 2009.
There's a lot more skin in the game, a lot more private capital. It was before, I think it was led by the US, where they were over leveraged. I mean, if I tell you from the US standpoint, I was there when the crash happened.
Oh, yeah.
And it was those exotic financing that got people in trouble. That
Wild
people,
West.
Yeah, people were basically stating their income and they were able to get a loan that they could never afford.
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden they lost their real job instead of the ones that they artificially said they had.
Yeah.
And now they can't make the mortgage payment. And you have all these banks that were over leveraged. They were giving 100% financing. They were even doing negative amortization, where the principal balance of the loan grows.
Yeah.
Instead of paying it down, you're letting it grow, right? Thinking that the market's always going to do this. And, you basically got the game was over, and then you had this crash. And that basically scared the whole world off. And then everyone went into this panic and started selling off. This time around, even if it's somewhat of a recession, I think it's going to be a mild one. And it's going to be something that people will quickly change the course of the economy towards positive. It happened last week. It happened where one day you had a crash, and then the next day the market regained itself, all the losses right back.
Yeah.
So there is a lot more people on the sidelines now than ever before, right? They have seen the population basically make their mistakes in the past, and they learn from it. And remember, Dubai, 60% of the market are renters. You give them motivation to own, the right timing, the right payment plan, and the right entrance in the marketplace, and they'll start buying instead. And so that is something that we haven't tapped into. And now when we start seeing that come into the marketplace, it will basically continue the trend of a positive market for the real estate industry for years to come.
Yeah, I agree.
So developers are getting smarter. Developers are understanding that there might be some type of correction. At least if it's not correction, then at least there's uncertainty, right? We can all agree that maybe there's not a correction coming, maybe there's no crash coming, but there's definitely uncertainty in the marketplace. There's buyers that are still thinking about it more than ever before, that what's happening in the marketplace. With that, developers are getting smarter. They're launching in phases. They're launching perhaps smaller projects rather than the whole full gamut of their vision. That itself is going to control the inventory. That itself is going to control the supply that's coming into the marketplace that can keep the rates where they need to be. Do you see that happening? Do you see developers scaling back?
I mean, the first thing you need to look at, and I don't know if a lot of people notice, is that now you see actually banks financing off-plan, which was not the case before. Mm-hmm. It's never usually the case.
Yeah.
Because banks only finance units that are finished or have 8 weeks at most to be handed over.
Yeah.
So when you have banks starting to finance things that are off-plan, it starts making you wonder, why are they doing this? So obviously that means there's a little bit of a lag in the market. And I think if you look at most of the developers now, they have slowed down, and they are the projects that were supposed to be launched on a bigger scale are being launched in phases, like you said. And I think they're just trying to test the market to see, because for them, launching at phases minimizes the risk, allows them to really test the market firsthand and see where they can improve, whether it's the price point or in terms of the construction itself and the facilities. So for them, launching in phases is always in favor of the developer to sort of understand where this market's going.
Yeah, and as a developer, I can tell you that I wish I had launched in phases for my last project, is because we had such a demand that we were able to sell off within a reasonable amount of time right after launch. But I wish that I had kept some of the units, is because today the market has appreciated and it's selling for at least 20% more than what it sold 12 months ago. And so that itself can be a strategic way for developers like me to be able to gain the benefit of the marketplace. But at the same time, let's say if the market didn't appreciate, then at least I can now basically know that I've controlled the supply to be able to keep and maintain a certain price point and keep the quality and the project going. So I think the local marketplace and all the developers that are within the big and the small, they all are very smart, and they are not going to put their product and the whole market as a whole in a place of risk where it exceeds the demand, right? People either will start to see plot prices go lower, and then they'll basically make the money off on the gain of buying the right plot, or it's going to be in form of appreciation, and where they'll make the trade-off of the higher plot prices in the sale per unit. So overall speaking, I think they'll find a equilibrium between supply and demand within the next 3 to 6 months. Once I think the summer passes, I think we'll have a better understanding of where we stand.
Yeah.
I think we want to kind of take a deep dive into your expertise, since you're an engineer.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, every time I think about it, and I'm like, why did I choose this? I guess, I don't know. It's good and bad. It's a love-hate relationship. I'll just describe it that way. Because sometimes you just, it's a bit too hectic. But yeah, go ahead.
So I wanted to know, do you think that investors buying off-plan, they have an idea of the type of quality they're buying into?
No, never. Never. Because most developers will sort of design in a way and maybe optimize in another way. Some of them will commit, some of them will not commit, some of them will value engineer, some of them will maybe change completely. And usually contracts are very much in the favor of developers. So you can't, as an end user, you can't really come back and tell them, oh, sorry, you promised me this, but I got this. Because the contracts usually allow developers to make the changes as they see fit for their own business interest. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, unfortunately, it does happen, and it's something that you have to sort of, as an investor, you have to expect.
So, from your point of view, what is kind of the disconnect between what's being sold off plan and what's being actually built?
The disconnect is simply developers and specific owners just trying to maximize their profits. If they feel like they can value engineer in some areas, they will do it. And they will try as much as possible not to do it at the expense of the end product. But as a business owner, you're always going to look for the largest profit margin. But you as a developer, you can probably add more to it.
I would say that to me, as a developer, to me, my reputation is worth way more than the profit that I'll earn in my bank account. And the developers that think that way are the ones that are going to thrive and the ones that are going to keep their reputation, making them money over the long run. But those that basically value their balance sheet more than they value their relationships are going to basically, obviously, disappear when the market corrects itself. So overall, I can agree with what you're saying that most developers would do that, right? But the developers in the marketplace that are coming in today, they know they're working hard to be able to create a trusting relationship with their clients. And they would not put the quality of their project at risk when it comes to earning their customers' trust. And so for us, for instance, we wouldn't ever try to compromise that, because the promises that we've made in the marketplace is what's going to keep us thriving. And no billboard, no form of advertising, and no broker in town would be willing to perhaps bring us a traffic when we're not a reputable developer. So overall speaking, yes, there are people that will take advantage of that, but there are many that also understand the true success of a relationship, and it's keeping their promises. Yeah. So overall, like when things happen where costs go up. And we've sold, let's say, for instance, we've sold our project based upon 2024 prices. But most of the times, we're buying at 2025 pricing, right?
Yeah.
Today's concrete pricing, today's aluminum, and today's joinery work, and so on and so forth.
And you can't control that.
We can't control those costs.
Yeah.
But what happens is that when we're launching, we have to be very strategic in making sure that we have an outlook
1000%.
of the marketplace. But for instance, I mean, we can do that as best as we can, and that's why you need to be well capitalized as the developer to be able to meet and fulfill your promises to make sure that you can still deliver your product as per the original promises that you've made in contract. But let's say, for instance, developers in US right now, what would they be doing with the 135% tariffs, 140% I think it is now,
Yeah.
tariffs on their building material that comes from China? How can they deliver, right? How can they deliver their project when they sold, let's say, on last year's pricing, thinking that lumber is going to cost X and now cost Y? How do they survive?
Sue Trump. I don't know, sue Trump. I would say that's what you would do, because honestly, there's no. What can you possibly tell? There's nothing you can do. They sue the government, I guess.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of pain there. There's definitely a lot of pain, and I'm hoping that the strategic developers are able to somehow being able to hedge and perhaps source their material from other markets before they can basically not fulfill their promises. But that's where I think that that's the risk that developers wear, right? That we're selling at today's prices, and then we have to deliver and construct and probably source at tomorrow's pricing. That sometimes could be a challenge to probably figure out what that price can be in the future. But good news for the UAE is that they are slowly but gradually trying to become self-sustainable, right? Where they know what their demand is for the next 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, and they're hedging and they're trying to already have that supply committed to them, even if it's at a higher cost today, to be able to make sure that they can deliver on their promises.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a very simple equation. For you to price your project, you got to look at the history. Mm-hmm. You look at the history and you make, like you said, you make the projections and you put your unit or your asset or whatever you want to sell at a price point where it could hedge potential, let's say, risks or potential fluctuation in the market. The idea is, though, to your point, is that some developers play the short-term game. Some of them play the long-term game. Mm-hmm. The ones that play the long-term game, like yourself and like others, they care more about their reputation than the numbers in their balance sheet. And those are the ones that survive in the market. Mm-hmm. And you can ask Raja, and she's one of the best real estate agents in the country. She would tell you, I have a no-go list for specific developers and I have a go list for specific 100%. Developers. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, correct.
And that's exactly proving your point, is because the ones that stick to their, let's say, their brand identity and the end product are the ones that make real estate agents more attracted to them, and they want to sell their products. And probably Raja wouldn't get close to specific developers because she knows it's a headache and it's a problem for her, and she doesn't want to get in trouble with
and I don't
her.
even want the association.
There you go.
Yeah, because you're at the end of the day, it's your relationship before you introduce that developer. And you don't want to put your relationship at risk just because another developer's promises that you can't really stand behind. So I, as a developer, also agree that we value our relationship that we create with brokers. And for us, it's more important to make sure that we fulfill those promises than earn a profit. Profit comes over time.
Yeah.
Relationships, once it's gone, it's gone. Yeah. It doesn't just come back just because of a marketing campaign or a sexy project. It takes a lot more than just a bounce back in the market with the right project to be able to try to gain that back. Many developers have tried that after they failed on delivering on time, or that they couldn't deliver the qualities that they really wanted to deliver, and so on and so forth. But for them, overall, that reputation, once it's gone, it's gone. It's not really easy to build back on.
Almost impossible.
Yeah. Do you think that developers delivering on time has a lot to do with building confidence and creating relationships with the buyers and the brokers in the market?
5,000%. Yeah. Any developer that doesn't deliver on time is usually always the first one to pay the price. Because as an investor, I put my money in a specific investment. I want to see the return after the number of months or years that I've been promised that that unit's going to be ready. If that number becomes double or triple, it's not worth my investment anymore.
Obviously.
And I'm not going to
Return on
reinvest in your asset or in your company again. So that's why you find specific developers here selling off within the first day, first hour, first period of their launch. And that means that these guys have developed such a good reputation in the market that they will deliver on time, maybe plus or minus a few months, but they will deliver. At whatever cost, at whatever risk, they will deliver. And yes, delivering on time is, I think, one of the most important selling points for a developer. And she could comment on that.
100%. Actually, that's one of the things. Like, there are certain developers that when we mention their name, the first thing that we would say instantly, they deliver on time and they deliver in the shortest period possible in all the market.
Yeah.
So that is a main selling point for the developer to be able to deliver something of quality and on time. That's one of the main, I would say, motives, selling points, and one of the main motives for actually an investor to put in their money, because they know that they'll get what they have been promised on time.
Yeah.
As a developer, I definitely, was one of the things that we take very seriously is to make sure that we can deliver on the promise of especially delivering on time. Is why is because people are not just investment, they're just not counting on the unit just for an investment perspective, but some of them, they're doing it that they physically want to call it home, right? And let's say they're getting married, or let's say they're expecting a kid. They want that unit for their family to be able to prosper. And when you are delaying that project, then basically you're delaying their life. You're delaying their family planning. And that could be a lot more than just financial reward or gain that somebody that can basically get from your project. So definitely that's one of the things that we as developers also need to make sure that, generally speaking, that developers take serious. In the midst of what's happening in the globe, do you see a slowness in construction? Do you think construction itself is going to face a slowdown because of that?
It depends on the market. If the market continues to grow at the rate that it's been growing for the last few years, it definitely will not stop in terms of construction. It will continue to grow. It may become more difficult.
Yeah.
So, for example, what I think could be happening, and maybe it's probably already happening, is that some contractors are taking on more than what they can chew, right? So they wanna engage in more projects, but maybe they don't have enough resources to carry on executing those projects. So I would say it's a combination of both. It's if businesses are able to keep up with, like contractors are able to keep up with the increase in construction, is one factor that can determine whether construction is going to grow or not. And the other factor is if the market's going to continue growing at the rate it's been growing. So it's a combination of both. Because what's the point if there's so much demand, but there's not enough, there are not enough companies to carry out your execution?
Yeah.
It's going to become incredibly difficult. And like you said, delivering on time is the most important thing. So if everybody's overloaded, how are you going to deliver on time? No matter how great your relationship is with a contractor, the guy can only deliver to a specific point before he collapses, right? So it's a combination of both.
Branded residences, let's talk about that. There's so many successful brands that exist in today's marketplace, not only from a developer standpoint, but also from the clothing, and also from the cars, and also from just lifestyle brands. Do you think that adds value in the consumers' price points and resale values, or is it just a fad?
No, 100%. It is a known fact that most of branded residences, they perform 20% better than regular residences. So I feel like it's an added value. If this is something, I think it's a very personal choice for an investor if they want to opt for a branded residences. But I personally, as Raja, I would go for something that's not branded because at the end of the day, I look at it from my own perspective. I'm looking at ROI.
Yeah.
And I mean, a branded residence, obviously, it's going to come at a higher price
per
point.
foot, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate branded residences. I think they make absolutely no sense whatsoever. Unless it's like a trophy sort of asset, it makes absolutely no sense from every single aspect you can take a look at. From every single aspect you can look at it because, like she said, at the end of the day, you want to look at it, even if it's for your own personal use, you want to also look at it in terms of return on investment. Not every branded residence is a demanded residence. Yeah, maybe you might find a few trophy assets, like, for example, maybe the one that Neymar bought. Okay, it will probably keep its value because of maybe something very special about it. But when the market goes under, the number one thing that gets affected is luxury and branded residences, and they lose 100, 200, 300% of their value. And if you look at the numbers during COVID, branded residences were selling at such a big loss.
Yeah.
Okay, well, people should keep that in mind, whether you're an investor or you're an end user. Like you said, the market doesn't continuously magically go up. It's always going to dip at some point. Okay, then what are you going to do when the market goes under? How is a branded residence really going to save your life then?
I have a different take on that. And my take is that when there is corrections or recessions in the world, the middle class are the ones that get affected. The poor, they already had nothing to lose, and so in a recession, nothing changes. And the rich, they basically have layers of funding before they basically are affected. And usually the case is that in a downturn market, the rich get richer. And so I see that luxury products and products such as branded residences can be a hedge against recessions. Why? Is because you wouldn't see, there's limited product in the marketplace. I feel like in the UAE right now, there's a shortage of luxury product because not a lot of developers are willing to invest into that price tag to be able to develop that, because it takes a lot more time to be able to develop and sell a luxury product that sells at, let's say, 5,000, 10,000 dirhams a foot rather than just a product that sells for 1,500 to 3,000 a foot. So I think that like it becomes a safer asset sometimes to be able to hedge. If you look at it, like if you look at the rich, they invest in rare commodities and they invest in artwork that is like very rare. Why? Is because there's not going to be much of it. And if you look at even consumerism of what we buy in the malls, the Pateks of the world of watches, they're going to appreciate while other watches are going to depreciate. Why? Is because you have limited supply. And that always allows you to be able to perhaps get a a premium on your product. So, but there's always different takes, right? I mean, if you have a brand that is mediocre, that can probably hurt. But if you have a very sought out name that you're tying yourself to, then I think that can be perhaps that hedge that people are looking for in a marketplace. That's my take.
I think that it's different from one branded residence to another.
Yeah.
Some branded residences are actually worth investing in, and some other ones I believe it's just a waste of money. And
so
it
too.
also depends on the number of inventory, because you could be buying into a branded residence, but like they have 6-7 towers of apartments. So how is my 1-bedroom apartment is special? Or like when it comes to resale value, I'm talking, and also when it comes to actually to return on investment, where I don't see it being a wise investment. But there are certain brands, like for instance the Bulgari, like all the people who have invested in Bulgari, they have made like 100% to 100% capital appreciation, and they're still making so much return on investment. So I believe it's just it's pick and choose. Like the project should be really a special project with a very low number of inventory.
I agree with you.
A big brand.
Brand alone is not really what's going to be a good decision. I think it's location, the floor plan, the
number
brand,
of
the
inventory.
developer, and their reputation on being able to deliver the qualities that they're promising, that they didn't just tie up with the brand just because their brand alone is not able to sell in the marketplace. I think the whole full package you need to underwrite first before you make an investment into luxury. And usually people in that price tag, they're smart enough. They know what to buy into. And grand scheme of things, Dubai is really a destination where people want to splurge. They want to live their best life. They want to own the things that they always dreamed of here. And so when you have the rich coming here, they're going to want to buy into that lifestyle and that opulence that Dubai has to offer. So I think from that perspective, brands will do good, but still just because you have a brand as a developer doesn't mean that it's going to sell automatically.
I agree with you on one point, which is because I said that I hated branded residence, but I do agree with you on one conditional case. If your branded residence is one of one, then 1,000% it's going to keep its value.
Trophy.
But it's
like
a trophy.
Said,
Because I'll give you a very small example, and this is something that I know a specific developer, without naming names, and a specific, let's say, investment arm is doing right here. They're building houses, super high-end product, but 10 or 15 houses right beside each other within the same neighborhood, copy-paste. Why would I want to spend 25 million or 30 million on a house to see my next door neighbor having a copy-paste design of my own luxury product?
Yeah.
Why on earth would I want to see that? Me, as an investor, I can never potentially make sense in my head that I'm spending $10 million for me to see next door and a copy-paste design of my own house. It makes absolutely no sense because, again, if it's not one of one and if it's not a very limited supply, it makes no sense to have your branded residence. That's on one point. And another point for me, like you, I believe in long-term sustainability. You could create your own brand if you have the proper creative direction inside your company. If you really focus on creating an end product that is considered a luxury, you could do that, but it's a long-term plan and it's a long game and you have to be patient. Chanel didn't become Chanel overnight. Gucci didn't become Gucci overnight. These companies invested in their creative direction, in their creative, and their end product, and they took years to perfect their craft. And you could do the same and replicate the same in real estate. But you have to be patient. You don't want to come in with a mentality that I'm going to become a millionaire overnight, whether it's you're a developer or an investor. If you really want to build a brand and a luxury brand, you have to give it its time and you have to invest in your own team and in your own creative direction.
You said something very key and crucial to business, innovation, right? And it's not just innovation that you do once and then you perfect it over years. It's innovating every year, every time you have a launch. Every project that you launch, that you have something new to offer to the marketplace.
Sets you apart
because if you don't add value and if you don't set yourself apart and you don't perfect your vision and you don't deliver something that is new and exciting, then you're going to basically become extinct. And so if you look at just entrepreneurialism as a whole, right, there's many products that were really boring products that when the right brand got behind it, they were able to sell it for 10x. Why? Is because they were able to sell perceived value rather than just the actual benefits of the product of ownership. And that any company that can do through its marketing and innovation is going to thrive, I believe.
So touching on the sustainability point, from your standpoint as an engineer, do you think in Dubai in general, developers are building buildings that will last 50 years or these assets are actually being designed with a 10 years flip kind of mindset?
Depends what kind of developer you are.
I'm talking in general, like
Yeah.
the market. What's
The
your
market,
take on
well,
it?
first of all, there's a bare minimum when it comes to engineering, when it comes to construction, there's a bare minimum that you can't go under in terms of the lifespan or the life cycle of a project. So obviously, if you start doing a lot of overvalue engineering, you are gonna get buildings that are a lot less sustainable. So what's going to happen is that the building itself will become a lot more expensive to maintain, right? So it won't withstand, it won't be sustainable given the climate, given the heat, given a lot of other factors, environmental factors that have to do with the conditions inside the country. So you want to make sure that you're building something that fits the market needs. But unfortunately, some developers do that and some developers don't do that. But I would say for the vast majority, if they care about their reputation, they will do buildings that are sustainable, and they will invest also in sustainable and probably renewable, let's say, products that could be used in the building itself to decrease the impact on the environment.
My wife always tells me this, like I'm always a guy that likes to go into these hotels for inspiration. Whenever we go on vacation, we try to stay at nice hotels so I can get some inspiration from their interior design, from their architecture, from their way of serving and all types of things so that we can try to implement back in our development. And
If you're looking for inspiration, then you need to visit Morocco and
Yeah.
specifically
Yeah.
Marrakesh.
yeah,
No, it's
You'll
true.
be amazed.
yeah, we went there. We went actually in 2016 or 17, and it was a beautiful place. And one of the things that I learned as a developer and also as an investor is that a lot of those things are good for a vacation, but it's not good for day-to-day life, right?
Yes.
You can live in it for a weekend, but you really can't live in it every day, is because you have life, and life has to be rugged sometimes. It doesn't have to just be picture perfect. It has
Right.
to be okay for the kids. It has to be okay for the guests. It has to be okay for the in-laws. Everyone has to be able to call it home. And any developer that tries to sell you a picture perfect unit, over the course of time, there's going to be those instances where you have day-to-day life take over, and then those aren't going to be the durable products that basically are still respected after 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years of living. And so sometimes what happens is that when you see these sexy mock-ups and projects, they look nice in the mock-up, but when you have life living in it,
Yeah.
the size and perhaps the durability of the product, or perhaps even the replacement cost of that in case it breaks, is so high that you're now gonna basically take a project that was picture perfect to the ugliest one on the block. So us as a developer for Main Realty, we take that into consideration, that we want this project to be everlasting.
Yeah.
We want this to be evergreen. We want this to be timeless. And to deliver a timeless project, it takes interior design, architecture, and engineering from that perspective. And that's something that I think Main Realty definitely takes a lot of responsibility in making sure that we deliver something that not just looks nice, but it's going to look nice for years to come.
It has to be practical, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're living in a building that's not practical, if you're living in a unit that's not made for the market, it's like you said, it's going to make your life so much harder, and it's not going to make sense from an engineering point of view or even from an investment point of view, because you find yourself investing too much in sustainable practices that are actually probably not worth it, at the end of the day, and it doesn't make sense whether it's for an investor or the end user.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, to also comment on what Raja said, that I do think there is an increase in sustainable awareness. Let's just put it that way. So, for example, like you'll see, you remember the launch that they said that they're going on the Sheikh Zayed Road, it's going to make it super green, and they're going
the green line.
the green line, exactly, and they're going to convert that into I don't know how many kilometers of just pure green space. So I think that will have a ripple effect.
Got it.
And because it will have a ripple effect, people are going to be more aware and more attracted to sustainable practices. And it makes sense because you need sort of that input, and you need that, let's say, that flavor in the market. Because Raja can comment on this, but I hear this all the time. People want to see greenery. People want to live in green spaces or green-friendly places.
100%.
That's why some communities in Dubai are very much in demand because of that exact reason. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, 100%. Because lots of like the comments that we get is people would say that Dubai looks like a block of cement. You know what I
Concrete
mean?
jungle.
Yeah, exactly, a concrete jungle. So having communities that are green, and even this is one of the things that developers are focusing on, building communities, that they tell you like 40% or 50% of the community is actually dedicated for green spaces. This makes their projects more desirable. This is because people are actually keen on having greener spaces. It makes the quality of the air better. Aesthetically, it's better for their kids. Also having like green spaces where they can play, it also kind of adds to it.
And they're leading by example. If you look at I forgot what it was. It was either the Vision 2040 or the Economic Agenda 2033. One of the main initiatives and targets was to make Dubai a green space. And they're going to invest a lot of money, and they're going to build a lot of things that are very green from all aspects. And again, I think that's going to also affect the overall perspective of the market towards sustainable practices.
So
No, I think like it feels like home when you have a tree, when you have a plant, when you
Yeah,
have
of
flowers.
course.
It's one of those things that humans can feel energy from, and also
Recharge.
connected to each other and in the environment by seeing greenery. This is definitely something that is a premium in many projects in Dubai, because not every project you can basically have that luxury in, given the temperatures and the overall geography being a desert here from the background. But we're definitely doing a great job, I think, as a country. I think Dubai is doing a great job to be able to introduce plants and liveness to the streets and to communities by spending a lot of energy and money into building that out.
I have a question for both of you. So, like from my experience working with big developers and boutique developers, I see that the boutique developers are kind of more invested into presenting projects that are more sustainable, that incorporate more eco-friendly, I would say, amenities, or even eco-friendly buildings. Why do you think that is? Like, why they're more inclined into embracing sustainability than bigger developers?
I think it's because the bigger developers, they capture a marketplace where it's strictly ROI driven. And the entry point for a developer like me is to make sure that I go into an underserved part of the segment of the market, which is usually the homeowners, the ones that want to call it home, that want to raise their family,
Yes.
and so on and so forth. The ones that need that hand holding, the ones that need to see the actual unit before they buy it, type of experience to be able to commit to and buy from. And so I think that right there is what then basically, when you think about it from a homeowner perspective, you also want to make sure that, like I said before, you want to make it sustainable, not just the architecture or the interior design, but also the quality and the cost of living as well. Like you don't want it to be where you price out the homeowner when they purchase from you that they can't afford the electric bill just because you bombarded them with amenities that are so expensive to manage and maintain that their association fees are through the roof. So overall speaking, I think boutique developers take, as they're serving this niche market, that they're looking into those ways of sustainability as well, not just being able to deliver massive quantity of units per year to ROI-driven type of investors.
So we can say that boutique developers are building more responsibly?
I don't want to say that the bigger developers aren't, but I can say that we at Main Realty, I can speak for Main Realty, that we're more interested in building for homeowners than investors.
Yeah, I think it's boutique developers just have a lot more energy and focus on their brand identity, on their DNA, as opposed to, like he said, bigger developers that are just probably more ROI driven, not necessarily not caring about sustainable practices or whatever it is about building responsibly, but they probably don't have enough energy or focus on that because they've got bigger targets or bigger goals to achieve.
Yeah.
When you're a
pressed for
boutique,
time.
when you're a boutique developer, you've got more wavelength to sort of really focus on perfecting your craft as much as possible. So it becomes easier for you to maneuver and optimize your design. Let's just put it that way. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for all your expertise. Thank you,
Anytime.
Souk. Thank you, Raja, for all your cooperation and collaboration as well. I appreciate all this that we're sharing with our audience, and hopefully we can have another podcast soon. For those of you at home, thank you so much for your time, and like, subscribe, and comment below. Take care.
Thank you.